12 years after the Fukushima disaster, Japan is working hard to overcome challenges posed by its water. Why does the nuclear power plant have to urgently empty its water tanks? We went to see how the water discharge is being prepared. Since the tsunami of the 11th of March 2011, Japan has been decommissioning and decontaminating the site, which could take 30 to 40 years. But today, the priority, explains this official of TEPCO, the plant operator, is to do with the water. But first, where does it come from?
The water that accumulates every day was used to cool the molten fuel. And there's also water from underground springs or rain that accumulates.
This water is therefore treated in ALPS, a unit specifically designed for Fukushima. It removes almost all the radioactive substances. The treated water is then stored in 1,000 tanks, but they have reached their maximum capacity. This year, Japan will therefore release the treated water into the sea. However, a small amount of radioactive substance remains, tritium, which is inseparable from the water. In this laboratory, 90,000 samples of treated water are analysed each year in preparation for dilution in the sea.
So this is water that has been treated by the ALPS system. Almost all the radioactive elements have been removed, except, of course, the tritium.
After a second treatment in ALPS, the water will be discharged into the sea through this tunnel, which is 1 kilometre long and built at a depth of 16 metres. The tunnel will be completed this spring. Just before it reaches the Pacific, the water will be diluted one last time in large seawater pools. But will marine life be affected by the radioactivity? To find out, the nuclear plant is rearing fish in separate pools.
There are basins of natural seawater on one side and basins of treated water mixed with seawater on the other. We are going to discharge water at a much lower level than the WHO drinking water standard.
But the fishermen of Fukushima are worried about the reputation of their products. In the port of Onahama, 60 kilometres from the power station, their work has already suffered from consumer apprehension. From 25,000 tonnes per year before 2011, only 5,000 tonnes of fish are now caught, according to the president of the Fishermen's Association.
As a fisherman in Fukushima, I am against the release of radioactive materials into our workplace. What worries us is the negative reputation this creates. In terms of the explanations we've had from the government over the last 10 years, they have not been false, so we appreciate their efforts. And therefore, if we can also presume their scientific explanations haven't been false, we will make an effort to continue fishing, while at the same time fostering better consumer understanding, and by doing this, I think we can limit most of the reputational damage.
Everything is monitored after the daily catch. One fish of each species is analysed in this laboratory in the port. Today, of the 63 species tested, not a single one has any trace of radioactivity, so they're all for sale. In 1 year, only one fish has exceeded the authorised stage. This stage is strictly set at 50 becquerel in Fukushima, whereas the international standard allows 1,000 becquerel. The monitoring will continue after the discharge of the water. The authorities insist that the dose of tritium will not be dangerous. 22 terabecquerels per year, which is much less than most power plants in the world. For example, the waste processing site of La Hague in France releases more than 11,000 terabecquerels annually. But opponents say tritium from a nuclear accident is more dangerous. Not true, says this French scientist who has visited the site 30 times.
Tritium is a radioactive element that is only slightly dangerous. There are no different types of tritium. The characteristics of the tritium that will be released at Fukushima are similar to the characteristics of those released by nuclear power plants around the world.
The government is pleased that Great Britain lifted import restrictions on products from the region last June, a sign of renewed confidence after years of effort.
So far, we have organised about 700 meetings with stakeholders, including the fishery industry. We have developed concrete projects to fight against the bad reputation.
Japan has taken all the necessary precautions on the sensitive issues regarding the discharge of treated water and has asked the International Atomic Energy Agency to supervise the operations.
In May 2022, Rafael Grossi visited Fukushima.
The request for IAEA reviews demonstrates Japan's commitment and will help send a message of transparency and confidence to the people in Japan and beyond.
The IAEA director emphasises the remarkable progress on decommissioning at Fukushima Daiichi since his visit 2 years ago. The UN agency has set up a special task force. Last November, Gustavo Caruso, the head of this mission, returned to Fukushima.
The task force held the third mission to Japan, and the task force this time was composed by experts from Argentina, China, Canada, France, Republic of Korea, Marshall Islands, Russian Federation, United Kingdom, United States of America, and Vietnam.
The objective, to ensure the safety of the discharge. The UN agency examines the regulatory aspects and carries out analyses in independent laboratories.
The evaluation report and the conclusions will be released in approximately 3 months' time, and the IAEA task force will also carry out another mission in Japan in January. Before the water discharge begins, the IAEA will issue a comprehensive report containing all collective findings until now, our conclusions about all this process, all the standards that we apply as representing a high level of safety.
The first discharges could take place this year. Japan is already doing everything to make this operation a success and to protect the inhabitants and the environment. A new step in the reconstruction of a region that believes in its future.